we're going to talk about Chef Automate, but I'm going to start by telling you a story. When I first joined Chef, the team was building the very first generally available version of Hosted Chef. And I was helping the team to add a component into the system. And what I remember is I remember using Knife for the first time to touch a production system, I think. I was a little bit nervous. I remember checking those command line arguments more than once. And then I remember hitting the Enter key, right? And seeing the command output start to stream out on the console. And the command succeeded successfully, and I had added a system into Hosted Chef. And most of all, what I remember is how it felt. Because, I felt powerful, right? And it was fun. I was having a really good time. And I was amazed at the complexity that the tool was managing for me. Because at the time, I didn't know a ton about configuration management. I didn't know everything about our Hosted Chef platform. And the tool, though, gave me the leverage and made me able to contribute to the team. So it's this feeling of power and joy that really energizes me, right? That motivates me. I want to imagine a world where all of us are excited about the tools that we use every day, because those tools give us some of that sense of power, and we have a good time using them. And ultimately, that those tools, they help us be more awesome at our jobs, right? And I have to say, as I've been using InSpec, and for sure Habitat and Chef Automate, I've been having those feelings again, and it's super fun. And so I hope you will too. So I'm going to tell you the story of Chef Automate. And to do that, what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that you've deployed the automation across your entire organization. You've automated all of your infrastructure and your applications, and you've automated security and compliance testing over all of that, right? So imagine you've done that. How does that feel? Yeah, right? That feels good. And what happens? What happens is you start moving more quickly, which is what you want, and that's awesome. I automated, and I'm moving faster. But what also happens is you have a new challenge. You might have just had one team before that was dealing with the automation, but now, with the automation spread across your entire organization, you need your teams to be collaborating on that automation. So you need your infrastructure teams and your application teams and the security and compliance teams all to be working together and collaborating on that automation. So it would be nice if you had a workflow that helped you collaborate. And you've automated all of your systems, and you've scaled out, right? You're in multiple data centers, and you have multiple chef servers, and you push a change out, right? And you need to know, did that change make it out to the entire fleet? Because I don't know, there's intermittent failures, maybe there's some drift in one of the data centers. You're not sure. So it'd be really great if there was a place where you could go to look to see the state of all of your infrastructure. So I think you're getting the idea. Chef, InSpec, Habitat give you this great foundation for automation. But what's missing when you deploy that automation across your whole organization, what's missing is a unified workflow that reduces friction and helps all of your teams collaborate, and visibility over all of the automation, and visibility over the workflow. And that's the story of Chef Automate. All right. So how's it going, Oliver?
It's good.
Cool. So we're going to take a look at the Chef Automate user interface. And so we'll show you the landing page. We're going to start there. And so if we can get Oliver's screen up.
Check.
Cool. So when you log in to Automate, this is where you start. This is where you start to collaborate on changes and to be able to see at a high level the state of your infrastructure. Quick story. Yesterday, when we rehearsed this and saw the UI on the screen for the first time, some of the colors were not high enough contrast to display well. So we had to do some serious continuous delivery and get a change out. So thank you to the engineering team that worked on that yesterday to get a change out so that the colors looked good on the big screen. Thanks. Look, over the past year, what we realized is that our commercial offerings with Chef Delivery and Workflow and Chef Analytics and Reporting for visibility, that they worked best and were most powerful when they're used together, and when they're used together to give you the workflow and the visibility over all of that automation. And so what you're seeing is the result of a lot of engineering effort to bring together all of our commercial offerings into a single product, a single experience for the first time, and that's Chef Automate. So, yeah, you want to give a little tour?
I'd love to.
Cool.
So this is the landing page. Here you get to see a high-level summary of your CCRs across your infrastructure, your build node activity for your CD system, which we're not running any right now because we're doing a demo. Your workflow activity, which is the summary of your teams across your engineering org as they're shipping changes. So each stack represents a time slice of the day, and in each stack you can see changes that have been submitted, approved, and changes that have been delivered. And soon you'll be able to see a summation of your compliance status and how your applications are shipping with Habitat. So I'm going to let that sink in for just a minute. An interesting point about this instance of Automate is this isn't a demo instance. This is the instance we use to ship Chef Automate. So for the last 2 weeks, you can tell we've shipped some stuff in order to get ready for ChefConf. And then we took the 4th of July off, which was awful nice, right? And then we shipped a lot more stuff. And then last night, we released it. So I'm going to jump from here, and we're going to look at the nodes that are in this system. Here, you can see all of the nodes. This is a detail level view that are running. You can search, and you can search by cookbook, recipe, attribute, node name, resource name. You can filter by your production system, by your delivered environment. You can filter by role. You can see your nodes that have run in the system. You can see your compliance status across your fleet. You can see what's out of compliance. And you get to see a trend graph of CCRs. This is especially neat because this workflow change here is the release change. And you can see as it rolled out over time. Kind of funny story. It's not allowed to land in current because it wasn't released last night. So all of our delivery servers now will fail their CCRs because they can't pull current. Hopefully, by the end of today, that will be green. So now I'm going to jump over to workflow. This is your collaboration space for your teams. And yay for conference networking. Here's where your engineers can see what changes are ready to be approved. Your products teams can see what changes are ready to be delivered. You can see the last things that landed and delivered. And in this case, the last thing that landed was the release, which was pretty cool. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Seth.
So good. Thanks, Oliver. I'm just so excited about that UI, right? I mean, it looks good, don't you think? Yeah. So the team's obviously been really busy with Chef Automate, but that's not all that we've been up to, and I want to share some of those updates. So we're going to touch on Chef and give you a little bit of context on what's been going on since last ChefConf in 2015. So from a community perspective, the community is strong and growing. We've had over 6,000 new supermarket users, over 6,000 cookbook releases within the public supermarket. 222 corporations have signed up to be able to contribute to the Chef open source projects, and 923 individuals have done so. The open source governance of the project is healthy. We have regular IRC meetings, and we've updated 91 RFCs. And we've merged 544 pull requests representing feature additions and bug fixes and enhancements across just the Chef and ChefDK projects. Yeah. Within our own house, on the engineering team, we've really been on a journey this year and since last ChefConf to increase our own velocity and the quality of the software that we ship. And I'm super proud of the team in terms of what we've achieved and how we've improved how we're working. So one view of that is the number of releases across all of our projects that we've made. And there have been a lot of them, and that feels good. Another view on that is to look at, since last ChefConf, what are the major product releases that we've made? Like, that's a good list. It's a lot of things. I'm going to touch on one quickly. Our Chef Server HA, our product. Look, what we shipped is really great. It allows you to build high availability Chef Server clusters in unreliable networks, and that means you can use it in any of the cloud providers. The team worked really closely with a number of customers, some of whom might be here today. Really proud of that work. So the preview is, I'll tell you more about InSpec, but before I do, Oliver's going to give you some more detail on Automate, and we're going to do a little more demo for you. So we'll switch over to Oliver's laptop.
So earlier I showed you our production system, and here we have a demo environment that we built just for this. So this is the sign-in page for Automate. And you click sign in, and you get redirected to Microsoft for Office 365. I'm going to go ahead and log in. And this is using a SAML implementation to give you a single sign-on experience where my token expired.
What's up, single sign-on?
So now we log in. Yay for live demos. And we're taken back to the landing page. In this environment, there's not a lot of content, but we're going to go ahead and jump over to nodes. And we're going to talk about some of the use cases that Automate addresses.
Let's get rid of your little pass thing.
The things that become background radiation because they happen so much to me. Yeah. So here, we're going to show you the server list. So earlier, we talked about multi-data center support. Automate can seamlessly integrate with external Chef servers, allowing you to search across all of that infrastructure. So when you find out that this circle's red, you can go figure out where. But that's great, multi-chef server. But who here uses Solo? Can you raise your hand?
Solo. Yeah.
Okay. Or zero.
Oh,
or
right.
Zero.
Okay, so just really quick. Chef Zero, right? So what we've done, there's now one thing. We thought the Chef Solo, like that's the name. And what we did is we took the technology that was powering Chef Zero, and that's the thing. So there's one way to run local mode Chef, and it's the technology of Chef Zero. And we call it Chef Solo because Chef Solo is is the name. Cool.
So here I'm going to converge some Chef Solo nodes. This is a really simple cookbook. So we're going to clone it, pull it down to the box, and run it. And what you'll see here is when these runs are complete, if I go back to here and I click servers, you'll see localhost has now shown up. And if we browse through the node list, once they land, you'll see 3 new nodes showed up. And let's look at just one of them real quick. You'll see the server is localhost and the driver is Chef Solo. So now you can bring in all your Solo infrastructure and get visibility across it. You can see the resource list as well. And that's great, because automation should work, right? But automation is more interesting in how it can fail. So let's look at a failure case. Here I've got a node that failed. And I can jump straight to the error log for it and see that it's an error, hello, ChefConf. And here you get the error, the cookbook trace, the resource declaration, all the information you need to start to debug this problem, whatever it is.
It's so great to have. Yeah, right? So great to have the error detail just right there. So easy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is great, but it's a little late, right? I already converged the node, and it already failed. So if we had a workflow, maybe there's a way we could detect that error earlier. And so look, I've got a change here that is in acceptance and has not yet been delivered. And it's failing. And in this change, we've failed our functional test. So we've been able to provision and deploy, but somehow we're out of alignment with the expectations of our policy. And if we look, we have a compliance report. And in this compliance report, you can see that I turned on AutoFS, which was not a good thing to do.
Right.
And it immediately tells me that that's a critical error, right, and that we must remediate it.
And this compliance report is driven by InSpec code. So we have a project that InSpec is attached to, and when it runs, the InSpec tests are running, and then giving us that report.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is a perfect segue.
Yeah.
Into the next slide.
Cool. So. Thanks.
I'm so helpful.
Right. So that's my cue to tell you a little bit more in detail about InSpec and give you a little context there. So InSpec is our solution for describing security and compliance tests as code. And giving you security and compliance tests as code does 2 things for you, right? So one thing that it does is it brings your developers and your operations engineers into the conversation on security and compliance. Because developers don't want to read big stacks of security specs, but developers understand code. And so if you can express the test as code, it's something we can all interact with more easily. And the other thing that it does is something that Barry mentioned. It allows you to more easily move the security and compliance testing into your pipeline, into the build stage of things, so that you're addressing the problem earlier rather than later. And that's always good. In terms of a tool itself, InSpec is really powerful. I'm going to give you a little example of that just so you have the sense of it. So imagine that you need to verify whether any of your servers across all of your systems are running an insecure version of the SSL protocol, the V2 protocol that you should not run. And then further, suppose you're not sure what web servers you're running. You're not sure which ports you're listening for SSL on, and you're not sure which systems are even listening, right? So that becomes a pretty challenging testing job. And the code that you're looking at is the code that you need in InSpec that you could point at any machine in your fleet, and it will answer the question for you. It will check all the ports and determine whether it's listening for SSL, and if it's talking SSL, it'll see if it's got the V2 protocol that you don't want, and it will report on it for you. And you'll end up being able to generate a report like Oliver showed, where you've got the whole list, and you'll see on all the nodes, and you'll see red or green, and that's just super powerful. Yeah. The other thing we've done with InSpec is we've taken the CIS security benchmarks, we've generated from them a series of InSpec profiles that you can use as starting points for your own security compliance adventure. And that's this list, and you should ask us about it. Yeah, cool. OK, so we've taken a tour of Chef Automate. We've talked about Chef, and we've talked about InSpec. And the last piece I want to tell you a little bit about is Habitat. Habitat is our solution for application automation, and we released it last month. We're super excited about it. Yeah. With Habitat, we say that the automation travels with the application. What does that mean? That means that when you build a Habitat package, you have everything that you need to build, to deploy, and to manage the application, all fitting together. And that feels really good, right? Rather than telling you more about Habitat here, I'm going to do a short demo. We're going to just kind of take a look at it. And then there'll be lots of opportunities at ChefConf to learn more and see it up close and ask questions and presentations, and you should check it out. So let's take a look at my laptop.
Yep.
Oh my God, that's a lot of consoles. OK. In the terminal that's selected, I have an empty Linux box, and it has the Habitat binary hab installed. And the first piece that I want to show you is what it feels like to run a service using Habitat. And the service I'm going to use is Redis. And I'm going to enter a command, hab start core Redis. And I'm giving it one additional argument, and that's that Habitat, when it runs services, one of the things that it can do for you is it can manage the deployment topology. The supervisors know how that are running the service, so hab acts as a supervisor to run the service, and they know how to talk to each other, so I'm going to be showing you that as well. So let me get this started. And what you're seeing is all of the dependencies that the system needs to run the Redis service get downloaded. So if you look, there's we just saw glibc flyby. Redis just got installed. And then we're going to pause because I told it that I want to be in a leader-follower topology. So that means a single writer-leader, and then I'm going to add replicas. And so it's waiting because it needs to have at least 3 so that it can do leader election and reach consensus. And all of that election and all of that, Habitat is solving that for you. And so that feels really good.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. I'm going to keep us rolling here. So let's just take a look at what that looks like. OK. So I'm now going to start some more services in some more vanilla Linux systems. I'm specifying the same command line. The only difference is that I've pointed it at the service that's running. I could do it in different orders. I could do them one at a time, but just for the demo, I'm pointing it at the one that's running. And just by that piece of information, the supervisors will connect to each other. The supervisors communicate over a gossip protocol, and so it's real easy to get started. And you don't really have to do any ahead of time configuration. So let's see what that looks like. What we should see is that they all start negotiating with each other, they elect a master, and then the Redis service itself actually starts. There's so much more to show about what Habitat can do and how you can use it. So I really encourage you to check out some of the other sessions. And with that, I'll go back to the slides, and we'll kind of wrap things up. So what have we seen? We've seen a fantastic and powerful automation foundation across infrastructure with Chef, applications with Habitat, and security and compliance testing with InSpec. And we've seen how when you add on top of that workflow, and visibility, you get a really powerful engine for automating your business, and that's Chef Automate. And when you use all of these together, right, when you've got the automation and then you have the workflow and the visibility and you're doing it all, what comes out the other end of that is true end-to-end compliance. Because you're then able to govern a change from a developer's workstation all the way out to production with visibility all the way. And so that's what Chef Automate is all about. When can you have it? Well, you can have it today. So we would love for you to try Chef Automate and to learn more about it over the next couple of days. There are breakout sessions. There's the booth you should go to. The best way to learn about it is up close and personal and see it for yourself. Ask us about it while you're here. Go online, check out the tutorial. There's an experience where you can check that out. Download it. We want your feedback. We're going to be continuously delivering and improving it, and it's going to be great. And we're super excited about it, and I hope you are too. And thank you so much.